Okay, so guys, Grunt and I are here. Grunt had just mentioned in our chat that we have our Discord that there were some things at the market that he wanted to talk about. And I was wanting to do the same thing because I'm always on the hunt for budget cards. And that is not happening at all right now with Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's honestly stopped ever since Genesis Impact was out for about a month. You had a lot of cards that were nice and cheap, and suddenly things are definitely moving in a whole different direction. So I plan on talking about that a little bit. Grunt, what were some things that you wanted to mention when it comes to where the market's going right now?
So, when I say that prices on cards have been kind of crazy to say the least, to me it's nothing brand new. It's just that the circumstances are different because instead of having the market dictated by when the YCSs roll in or when Worlds is, when
Yeah,
Nationals is or regionals, like anything like that, instead of having tournaments dictating prices just seem to be staying consistently up and up, and there's
yeah.
really no fluctuation. There's no, oh my god, I gotta get rid of this card now. Like, it's, to me, the market's kind of frenzied because there's no pattern. Like,
Yeah,
and that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I kind of see it as both in a way.
yeah. I completely agree with you. Things are definitely weird right now. So, just to give players an idea of how crazy things are going, I'm going to take you real quick here, just to the structure decks that released in 2020. Some of these are just nuts when it
Yeah, they
comes to
are.
the price of them. It's just absolutely shocking to me. So we're going to look at the Shadal one, which just released this past year. And if you guys look at this here, if I can get it to load, notice it's $30 just for the structure deck. It has gone up in price. Oh, good. It looks like there's an unlimited version coming. But I mean, that is just crazy. $29.75 is what we're possibly looking at paying. And I mean, that is a huge jump in a short amount of time. Another thing that I noticed is if you look at the Legendary Dragon collector set, this is insane. I can't believe how much this has shot up. $141 is the price now if you want a Legendary Dragon deck compared to where it was in the past. I mean, Grunt, what do you think is causing this spike with the Legendary Dragon Collector's deck? Because I literally picked this up half a year ago for 40 bucks. And the same thing with the structure deck at the beginning of 2020. I got those for $10. These are triple the price that they were a year ago. What do you think's causing that?
So, the dragon decks, I feel like it's kind of a mix of things. So, if you look into the dragon decks themselves, like, there's a few individual cards like Dark Magician the Dragon Knight that haven't gotten a reprint, or Apprentice Illusion. I guess my main issue is that if you really want to buy a sealed Legendary Dragon deck, I don't think it's worth it. You could probably buy most of the singles that you actually want for less. I don't know why it's gone up. My best guess is just that it has a lot of good reprints in it as a whole,
Uh
and
huh.
at the same time, its value's gone down because Chimera Tech Mega Fleet, I believe, got a reprint
A,
at some
a
point.
bunch of this has. The only thing in here that hasn't seen a modern reprint is Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. Or wait, is there another version
Did
of
Arc
that?
Rebellion?
Yeah.
Didn't Arc Rebellion not get a reprint either? Or
Yes,
Arc
and
Pendulum?
Odd Eyes Arc Rebellion, Pendulum Dragon. Yes, that has not gotten a reprint yet. But the majority of this, there's other versions of these cards. And when I saw that literally there's only 5 listings for this and they're around $141, that's the lowest price. I mean, I just thought to myself, what on earth is going on in the Yu-Gi-Oh community to cause something like that spiking? Because that's not the only deck. If you even go to other structure decks right now, because this is just shocking to me. So like, let's go ahead and take a look at Order of the Spellcasters. So if you want this to where it's actually brand spanking new in the box, you're looking at around, I believe, 35. Yeah, $35 almost is what you're paying.
Yep, yep, and that's so structure decks. I think are kind of different. Now, the one thing I just remembered about Dragon decks that could explain it is that for whatever reason, I don't think Konami ever put out an unlimited run of the set. I think it was only ever a first ed run, so that could explain kind of the collectability behind it. That would
Uh
also
huh.
explain why people have been wanting reprints. Structure decks, it's weird because if we want to talk about examples of decks that used to be high and now aren't, Dino Smashers was a big one
Yes, it was.
because OV Raptor was once like a $10 card, Conductor
Right.
Tyranno was a few bucks, and that's not even going into other cards in that set. Like
Right.
it's crazy, but literally the only thing right now that's carrying Order of the Spellcasters is Droll and Lockbird is suddenly
Oh, it's
spiking in value again
yeah,
because it's a Droll format. Like if you look at
yeah.
Droll and Lockbird now, it's kind of funny because well, the common is up there, and even the gold rare is going up in price again. So
It is. Yeah. And it's just very interesting to see such a jump with the different sets right now that are out there. It's just a little surprising to me when I look at where things are. Another one that shocked me is that if you go to the Soul Burner structure deck, that is
yeah, that soul
also
burner.
insanely expensive right now. It's $30. I mean, that is just
Yeah.
nuts to me.
Like there's some listed right now. And no wait, it is 30. There's just $10 shipping.
Yeah,
Never
there's
mind.
$10 shipping with it. Yeah.
So
Did
literally, and this is what I kind of wanted. I'll get to this later with sets. The way I see it is that if you see something that you know you're going to want within a set, and I think this is true for some of the structure decks too. I remember that before it was banned, people were flipping it for the Ancient Gear deck, not because of the Ancient Gear reprints, but because Max C got a reprint in there. And
yeah.
for Soul Burner, I mean, you look at Soul Burner, everything in this deck, look at it. Everything in this deck is under $1 except for Ash Blossom.
Yeah,
This is literally an Ash Blossom in
the
a box. That's
the
what this is.
common is $20. I mean, I cannot believe that is the lowest you can get the common from this structure deck is $20. That absolutely blows my mind.
And the irony is that, in my opinion, here's my take on this because I've seen them all over my local shops. If you really want Ash Blossom so bad, I would honestly recommend Dual Devastator only because I have seen a lot of places that still have Dual Devastators. My local
Yeah.
Meyer has like, and I'm gonna say this right now. Meyer does bump up, at least in my area, they do bump up Yu-Gi-Oh prices a few bucks. But knowing that I could buy Dual Devastator at Meyer for $43 to get an Ash Blossom and all those other hand traps, like I guess it's better to do that than to buy an old Salmon Great deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when the majority of the cards are not going to be that crazy expensive. But and you're right. I mean, the jump here in price has just been crazy lately. So if you go to TCG and you want this, they're $61. That is just nuts. I mean, that is
Yeah,
a
I mean,
huge increase in price.
and obviously to any of our viewers there who aren't in the Midwest or north of the Midwest region, you might not have a Meyer, but I'm sure you've got some retail store out there or some market out there that's like that. I know that Indiana has several Meyers, so Chrono here can probably attest. I mean, I don't know how your Meyer is. Again, if I had a stimulus
There's
check right
usually
now,
stuff there. Yes, usually
if
there's
I
things there.
if I had a stimulus check right now, I would go to my Meyer and I would pick up all those Dual Devastators because why not? Because apparently it's not getting another reprint, but uh, you know, and this is the other thing I wanted to get to is that it's not Konami's fault whenever a card gets expensive, in my opinion, because if we're gonna
Yeah.
look back at Ash Blossom, for example, they have reprinted this girl more
Yep.
times than other cards out there. They've given her her own sleeves, binder, and card case. For goodness sake,
Yeah.
it's she's had like I think 10 or 9 printings, maybe 8 printings in the last. Like she literally got printed right before Link format. She's been around for like 4 years, and she's gotten at least 1 to 2 reprints every year, and she's still $20 across the board. So it's not
Yeah.
Konami's fault on Ash's fault. It's kind of the same story with Imperm.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know what they're going to do about this. It's almost like they're gonna have to. I mean, I don't know what the answer is here. Wow, look at this. This is shocking to me. With all the reprints that have happened, now I remember when I actually had 3 Ash secret rares at one time. I sold them because usually when a card gets reprinted, it loses its value. Look at this. $70 is the lowest price for the secret rare if you're going to get that.
And that's funny because I'll admit this. Ash was disgusting when she reached her max price because back during Zoo format, she was one of the first cards in a while I had seen outside of the Necros stuff that reached like $100. And even then at launch, I think she was maybe 60, 70. Like right now, she's pretty much going for or above what she was at pre-sale, and that's crazy. This is probably one of the best aging secrets because if we look at another secret, that's ironically had less printings. We have Dimensional Barrier, and yeah, people used to spend $80 on this card.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy to me though is I'm looking at all these different things. So look at this, guys. You have a secret rare, you have a super rare, an ultra, a premium gold rare, an alternate art premium gold rare. You have the common, then you have 2 other ultra rares. And the lowest one right now is the common with the premium gold rare just a bit above that. I can't get over the price of this. I mean that is just crazy to me to see this jump in price. And I think you're right, Grunt. I think that this has to do with all the extra money that people have. They're heavily pouring it into the Yu-Gi-Oh marketplace. What could be the downfall from something like that?
So, to me, and I'm not comparing people on the secondary market to scalpers. I'm just saying it's a similar situation. Scalpers, in my opinion, if we're going off on a tangent, that's different because scalpers hold the entire stock, and even with buyouts, you're never holding the entire stock. You're trying to. Well, long story short, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the easiest way to burst this bubble would be for Konami to have a huge mass reprint of a set or something, and
Uh-huh.
like here's the thing, they reprint Ash, say, in Ghost from the Past, and you're gonna see some of her prices drop again. I think the only one that's safe is the secret rare because the secret rare has also got some collector's value in it. But
Yeah.
like these golds used to be like 10, $8. I could have gotten a
Yes.
play set for what they cost now. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
It
And
is.
this set's not even 4 months old yet. It's a young set.
That's what blows me away here. Are we going to see some inflation? Do you think that's the result of all this money going in that now we're starting to see some inflation and we're seeing it hit the Yu-Gi-Oh market pretty quickly?
Well, and the thing that baffles me is this. Now, I and I'm going to say this. Of course, every year the game does get newer players who haven't played before or they're just getting back into the game. I guess my point is though, if you're someone like me who's been constantly playing the game since Maximum Crisis, now I didn't pick up Secret Ashes because I didn't like shelling out $80 for a hand trap that we all knew was getting a reprint.
Yeah.
It just happened that her reprints were never really easy to get. Shadows of Valhalla, she was short printed as a super.
Yeah.
She was short
Mhm.
printed as an ultra in that one Kaiba set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the easiest printing we got of her before Dual Devastator was Soul Burner,
Yeah.
and yeah, even Dupo. Like I bought case of Dupo. I think I got maybe two of her. Dual Devastator, obviously, you could get a play set. I guess what I'm just trying to get at is that the cards that Konami tends to keep up in this value are cards that have a lot of printings but don't
Uh-huh.
have good ratios. And I think the best example for going in other cards like this, Imperm has had a lot of prints, kind of, but it hasn't had any super common prints yet.
Uh-huh.
Invocation has been short printed, and that card has no business, in my opinion, being 20 plus bucks still.
Yeah.
It's There's a lot of cards like that that get reprints, but because Konami knows it can make them more money, they short print it so that they have a chase value.
Yeah, and you bring up the impermanence. I think that's a good one to talk about here. So this it's had four printings so far, and the most expensive printing is about $43. And then you've got the latest premium gold rare, which is sitting right around 21. And then the ultra rare is at 24. The other one in dual power was 23. So those are hanging around the same price, but right now we're not seeing them in the meta as much. If
Yep.
we do see players return to it, do you think they're going to spike?
So I think the biggest, I wouldn't even say issue, the biggest thing you have to put an asterisk on is that when decks are rated and played nowadays, and I'm sure everyone here follows some YouTubers, whether we've got MCOL40 or whether we have SEMO or if we have Lithium, like people who follow the meta, you kind of get an idea of what's being played. I think the issue is that unlike tournaments where people are pretty much building what they can, I just feel like the online setting is different. Like it might be having
Mhm.
some variables in the meta,
Mhm.
especially with certain cards not being allowed because of how the remote duel setups are working.
Oh yeah,
So,
those are a disaster. Absolute disaster. I was talking with KC Games. Shout out to KC Games. He was at the house today, and we were actually talking about how crazy it is that you have people that are blatantly cheating, and they're getting caught to where they look like they're taking a drink, and when they do, they grab a card, and when they're lifting their drink, they're taking the card with them to their mouth, which is off camera, and then sliding the card into their deck. I mean, absolute nuts when it comes to the remote dueling idea. I almost feel you have to have it to where you can't even have your hands leave the area if you're gonna even be able to be a part of something like that. It's weird. Um,
pretty much.
so let's talk about some other decks that I've seen. I know I'm on the structure decks, but I spent a lot of time looking at these today, just because these are typically great decks that you can go to. Let's talk about the
The
Zombie
zombie one.
Horde. Why is this deck so popular right now?
So I think this kind of goes in tandem with let me see real quick, because I feel like, because I bought quite a few of these. I bought maybe one of these in English. I got some of the staples in English, and I also got some of these when they were German. I think the biggest thing is that again, very similar to the structure deck with the spellcasters, or I think Soulburner even. Well, I don't know if Soulburner got a second run. The point is, as far as I can tell, this hasn't had any unlimited printings yet.
No, it has not. No.
And that's kind of part of it. Like Necro World, like Glow Up Bloom sees some play. Obviously, Necro World, Doom King, and
Mm-hmm.
Solitaire are big hitters. Mizuki, I mean, Mizuki's another card that always ends up being worth a few dollars.
Well, and it's crazy right now. So the common, this just blows my mind. The common is $3. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, those are staples for if you're playing Zombie World. And then you've got both Banshee and Doom King. They're both sitting at $9 a piece.
So, and this is my thought on the matter is, and this is kind of my philosophy, especially I'm gonna when we discuss some of the newer cards that have hit the market. I've always seen Yu-Gi-Oh as a game of opportunity, especially when it comes to reprints. Now, that's my big thing is that there's a difference between jumping on a reprint opportunity versus
Mm-hmm.
jumping on an initial print opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'll go on about the initial print because we're talking about Mizuki here.
Yeah.
So I guess my opinion is, especially for Ash Blossom, even if you didn't want to play Salamangrates, back when the Soul Burner deck came out, you could, you know, literally buy the deck, keep the Ash, sell the Salamangrate core to somebody, and
Oh,
get
yeah.
more than enough
And
money
make
back to
your
make up
money
for your
back.
Ash.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And like there was some OTSs in Germany, and they were selling them above normal MSRP because
Yep.
they knew they could. Ash is
Yeah.
valuable, and it's funny. It's funny. I was able to get three soul burners on release date because I went to an old OTS that nobody frequented anymore, and they're like, "Oh yeah, nobody came for these yet. Here, have your three for $10 a piece or €10."
Right.
And yeah, there we go. Now I have a playset of common English and German Ash because I also had three picked up in the U.S. So it's and that's it. I guess my point is that for older players who have had the chance to buy these decks on release, like anyone who wanted to play Zombie Horde, who played the game years ago when it came out, probably picked up the deck when it came out.
Uh-huh.
It's more of a gatekeeping thing for newer players. Like, you could have someone who maybe within your classroom or one of your own kids who wants to pick up zombies, but if you or no one else has stuff that they can borrow or you trade for, they're stuck now with cards that cost more than the deck used to on its
Yep.
own.
Yep. And that's the thing that's so crazy to me. Just looking at this, if someone's going to buy the core, they are better off actually just buying the structure deck because of the individual prices being so expensive here. Because if you're going for a what used to be a budget list, if you're following a budget list, this is not it anymore. I mean, I'm literally looking at the one ofs here, and I mean, this adds up to 18, 21, 25, 30. Okay, so we're looking at $34 for 6 cards. I mean, just based on the TCG ratings here, that is just crazy to think about when you're looking at these kind of builds. That's the price that you're going to be possibly paying. So this is still, guys, if you're looking for a good deal, this is still it. Versus actually having to buy these individually, which I almost never say. Usually, you can get the individual cards cheaper than if you were actually buying the structure deck itself. So that's pretty crazy to me.
My
Go ahead.
I'll say this real quick. My best advice for anyone out there, especially those of you who aren't in a big city setting with a ton of players, like if you live more out to the side,
Yeah,
nearer to the
rural.
countryside,
Yep.
you could have a better chance of finding these older products for $10. And that's always what I do whenever I go shopping or if I'm ever traveling out a bit. If I ever happen to find an OTS that I want to stop by,
Oh yes.
sometimes I've picked up stuff for cheap. Like I picked up the Counter Fairy stuff when it was $10. When Eva and Heralds were getting hype, I
Yes.
picked up
Yeah.
the Spellcaster deck. Like, there's a lot of stuff you could pick up. It all depends also on these things getting reprints. For all we know, again, Ballard's Rock could get a reprint and goes from the past and
Yeah,
you wouldn't bat an eye.
absolutely. You bring up Wave of Light, so it was definitely big there for a little bit, but it has gone down in price. It was at 30 some dollars at one point, even a little bit higher because it got bought out real bad, and it was because of what the two cards you were saying. Herald of Orange Light was around 8, and Eva was close to 6. Just those two cards. So everyone
Yep.
was making a mad dash trying to get the Wave of Light structure deck. And going with what you're saying, I agree with him. Guys, check out your Walgreens or your CVSs that have these cards because they're not going to have their prices fluctuate like the online market will. And you have a very good chance of finding these decks cheaper there, and of course, then making a profit if you even want to with the structure deck. So there's definite areas you can still go to, and if you don't have them, that's your best chance of getting them cheap.
Even places like GameStop where people
Oh
aren't
yeah,
normally
GameStop's
looking for
really
cards.
good. Yeah, I'm
Now,
glad you
my
brought that up. Yeah, GameStop is extremely cheap for Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
it depends. It depends, and I say that because I've got multiple Game Stops near my region, and there's
Uh-huh.
like one that's like 20 miles north, one that's like 15 miles south. Like I got one that's like not even 2 miles from my house. The thing is, the one that's close to my house, like they're stocked up on Magic and Pokemon, but Yu-Gi-Oh is almost next to non-existent at times. Like there have been
Yeah.
times where I've been able to go in and find Megatins years out, not years, but like months after, and I was able to pull a Dragoon from an old
Yeah.
tin they
Yeah.
hadn't sold yet, and so that's something. I guess my point is that the current GameStop, like I went to it, there's literally not a single Yu-Gi-Oh thing left there. So
Yeah,
maybe
well,
keep in mind
and it's
different
interesting you bring
stores.
that up. So this is sold out now, but the Yu-Gi-Oh! Legendary Dragon decks were at one time $15 on GameStop.
Yes, they
And
were.
and then now they're all the way up to $141. I mean, that is just crazy to think about when you look at this. I mean, oh my gosh. So that in itself is absolutely nuts. And the structure decks are very much like that as well. So if you can, guys, this is a site you definitely want to watch as much as possible because they do have really good Yu-Gi-Oh products and they have them cheap on a regular basis. Like, look at this. The Shadal structure deck at one time on GameStop was $7. $7 is what you were possibly paying compared to the 30 that we were looking at earlier. I mean, that is just crazy. So, and they do sell out. So that's another place to definitely be looking to see if you can get some cheap cards. So, yeah, Grunt, that was a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Okay, other cards that you're noticing.
So, I mean, can we address the elephant in the room that is Red Eyes Dark Dragoon
Oh,
doubling in
yeah, I'm glad
price?
you brought that up. Yeah, so let's talk about that.
So, and I hate to say this because it sounds mean. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past year, you've probably all heard of the big question surrounding Dragoon. Some people were thinking it was going to get hit on the or last list we got,
Yeah,
or
I
they would
thought
hit
it might have.
Anaconda,
Yeah,
or they'd hit Fusion. And I think the biggest thing that I've heard people tell me, and again, I got some friends I talked to who were just as knowledgeable on this game and offer me different insights I hadn't considered. And the biggest insight I heard about Dragoon and why it wouldn't get hit here like it was in the OCG was that the TCG meta is usually a lot more aggressive than what the OCG plays, and that's because the TCG sees a lot more success with combo decks,
yeah,
which kind of discourage a Dragoon setup. Whereas while the OCG has had aggressive strategies, like control-based strategies, really take advantage of Dragoon. And keep in mind that this is then the OCG, they still have Max C, so the fact that you can sit on Dragoon and possibly play your own Max C to profit off of your opponent trying to break through it,
uh-huh.
there's a lot of other factors in the OCG, and that's why it's not a one for one comparison to the TCG. It's I guess my point is that since Dragoon didn't get hit, of course everybody and their mom's gonna jack the value up. And again, I have a spare one I'm hoping to flip, so good for me. But for
Yeah,
people who
yeah,
want to play Dragoon, it's gonna suck now because what used to look expensive at $40 in a tin
yeah.
is now double that.
Oh, yeah.
And now guess what? The tins are gone. You can't
It,
find the tins out of your OTS
exactly.
anymore.
And this card is only going to increase if it doesn't get limited. So you're going to see this card shoot up. And so I was with Casey Games and his wife Julia when we opened a case together, and I want to say he got one out of the entire case. I mean, that is a crazy ratio for how unlikely it was to get one of these from a 10 when those were being opened. And maybe he got two. I can't remember, but it was awfully low. And so, like you're saying, it was $40. I remember when it got all the way down to 25, and now notice that
Yep.
it's at 80. So yeah, that's a rough one. Now, if it gets limited grunt, do you see this dropping for a time?
So certain decks do like running multiple dragoons, especially decks that run cards like Extra, where you don't want to banish your one dragoon. The thing is that the only deck I can think of that religiously wants to use more than one dragoon at a time, or is going to try and use one more than one, is Guru Dragoon. And
Yeah.
I I guess my point is, like, I played a Dragoon variant of Drytron before Drytron got hit. Rest in peace to Ben 10. Uh, but Dragoon, like, a lot of decks just need one Dragoon, one Verite, one Fusion. So
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's one of those things where they'll have to ban one of those cards to really, put the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Absolutely. You had mentioned droplets earlier. Let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
So Droplet is not even the only card I wanted to bring up. So a lot of stuff in Rise of the Duelist kind of comes to mind. There's also some other stuff I wanted to. So Droplet, Talent, Nadir Servant, Ice Dragon's Prison, even Schism. Chaos
Uh-huh.
Ruler, I also want to chat about for a little personal reason. And aside from that, I think the only other big card I really want to talk about is, well, Eternity Code's kind of funny because now we've got access code neck and neck with Chamber Dragon Maid of all things, and
Uh-huh.
like essentially it's Eternity Code and Rise of the Duelist as a whole, in my opinion, with their secrets. So,
Go ahead. What are you
so here,
thinking with them?
okay. So like I said with the Soul Burner deck, my biggest gripe with people buying these cards right now is that as soon as a card gets its initial printing, Konami hits their finger on a stopwatch and the clock is ticking because we all know that cards in core sets are bound to get reprinted eventually. And the reason why I
Right.
say core sets is because if we want to talk about investment of the years in recent history, the BLS link has been around for years without a
Uh-huh.
reprint because it was in a side set. And even the some of the side sets like Genesis Impact aren't safe from reprints because we've
Yeah.
seen some the like Dark Servants or Dark Saviors. We've seen reprints of side sets in recent years in the Megatins. But I guess my point is you'd have to you'd have to have your brain on backwards to think they're not going to reprint access code by the next Megatins,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
that they're not going to reprint Nadir Servant, or that they're not going to reprint,
Triple
Droplet
tactics
or Talent.
talent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's assuming they don't pull an Eldritch, because
Yeah.
we didn't think and that's what I wanted to kind of get on top of here is Eldritch, in my opinion, is the one card I wouldn't have pounced on because hindsight's 2020. Eldritch suddenly dropped in value when he got reprinted less than half a year after he started his reign,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's crazy. So I guess my point is, you hear people talk about access code. You could have picked this guy up for $30 at during the pre-sales,
Yeah.
and now we're like
He's huge.
six, we're like 9 months into his existence. We're less than half a year away from knowing about the next Megatins and more details about them. So I guess what my point is, why would you want to pick up an access code right now
Jeez,
if,
$100. Oh my gosh.
like, I could have bought three of this guy during pre-sale and I still would have saved money on him. And I guess
That
that's my point, is that I
wow.
understand people like their online tourneys. I get it, but especially with the recent issues with cheating, I just
Yeah.
don't feel like that doesn't fill my niche for what I want. I never even attended a YCS, but I can assume that anyone who attended a YCS can tell you that a remote
Oh
tournament
my
isn't the same as
goodness.
a YCS.
This is nuts. I didn't realize that Archosaur went all the way up to $80. Wow.
Archosaur is just happy because they didn't kill Misk. I thought they would hit Misk to 2 or 1, or they'd hit Fossil Dig, but no, dinosaurs get off scot free, and Archosaur gets to profit.
My gosh. This is nuts, guys. Look at this Chamber Dragon Maid now is $82. I mean, you're absolutely right with the secret rares that you talked about with both sets. Like you're saying, with us knowing that the Megatins are on the horizon, we're not going to be doing a lot of in-person play just yet. I know people are getting close to in-person play. Like, for example, our local actually has it open. But like you're saying, a YCS, I don't see coming back until more of the country is vaccinated. So I'm not sure when
No,
that's going to
exactly.
happen. So I don't know. It just seems crazy to me that the prices are just this out of control. And the last time I saw prices this large was when Sky Striker hit. Like that core was super expensive, along with Trickstar. Those were really expensive builds. But now you've got tons of other stuff that is jumping up in price. And as a budget guy, that is extremely alarming to me that we're seeing that actually happen. It just seems nuts.
Well, it's funny that you bring up Sky Striker because the biggest lesson I've always learned is if there's a card that's really got some hype behind it and the pre-sale doesn't look inflated, you can only ever really plus on value or have a net gain or net
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah.
So, like access code, like anyone could read this card back in March, April, like a few months before we got it here in the TCG. And that's not to mention that Eternity Code got pushed back a month. That's a whole fiasco. But the point is, we saw that it was seen play in the OCG. We knew that this card had a lot of uses. People who were playtesting saw that it could close games and it was like a better Boral Sword.
Uh-huh.
But the pre-sales were $30, and there are
Yeah.
people who thought, "Hey, I'm not going to pick it up yet," and I was one of those people. And guess what? Had I known that access code would be a $90 card, you
Oh,
bet I would have
yeah.
picked it up for 30. Or and it's no.
Well, same thing
And
with Arceus or Archosaur. I remember
uh huh.
seeing that at like 17, $15. I mean, had I known we were going to see this kind of inflation in Yu-Gi-Oh prices, because guys, it's across the board that the prices are doing this. So, for example, I've got pulled up here top Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and I use this website often just to get a feel for where things are money wise. And you look at Invoke Dogmatica, it's $1,200. The decks that people are putting together in order to win. Then you also have Drytron, which is anywhere from 630 all the way up to 750. I mean, that's expensive when you look at this. Even a so-called cheap deck like Virtual World, that's also up there in price at the value of 586, but your side deck is $342. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, that's a ton
And
of money.
well, and the sad thing is that it doesn't take a genius to tell you what cards are costing or adding to that value. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're looking at a Dogmatica deck and you see like $1,000, you can guess that 300 of those dollars are the $300 play sets of Nadir Servant,
Yeah.
or and side deck options. I mean, if we want to talk about the most expensive ultra rare I've seen to date in recent history, it's Ice Dragon's Prison. You could have
Yeah.
bought this sucker for $5 around launch, and now he's $50 because he's effective. Heck, I used him yesterday in the tournament, and I wish I had gotten this trap back when it was cheap because,
Yeah.
well, even when it gets a Megatin reprint, it's definitely going to be above $5 after
Yeah.
seeing this type of success. And Chaos Ruler, I bring up Chaos Ruler because I think Chaos Ruler pre-sale, people who bought him at first kind of hated it because I think his pre-sale was like $20, then he went down to like $8. I picked one up for like $7, and now he's 26. So
Yeah.
again, even if you negged on the pre-sale, now you're getting your net gain back, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just crazy to see these prices at this point. I mean, my gosh. I didn't realize that Ice Dragon's Prison was $5. Oh my goodness. That is now 10 times the value that it was when it first came out. I mean, this can't be a coincidence. I mean, it just seems very crazy to me that the market is going this high. To me, it's got to be something related to inflation, possibly, because these are just not normal prices for so many different engines. At least from my recent memory. Grunt, can you think of a time frame where we had this kind of craziness?
Well, not this widespread. I mean, if we're going to talk
Yeah.
about decks that had this crazy value, I mean, Tier 0 status, which, in my opinion, the last true Tier 0 deck I think we really had was Zodiac. I think that Fruit Draco even had some crazy value back when Masterpiece was at 3 and Diagram was at 3. And Diagram was, again, like another $80 card for what it was. And obviously, dinosaurs were experimenting, and Dinos won Worlds that year. It's
Right.
like that's probably the closest I can think of. Sky Strikers, obviously, but Sky Strikers were not, in my opinion, true Tier 0 because there were
No.
some ways
There were
around
ways to
them.
deal with that, especially if you had a kaiju, you could shut off their deck, which
More
was
so
very
than
helpful.
Zoo. More so than Zoo, at least.
Yeah.
More so than Zoo. So, and it's not even necessary because you can totally play without Droplet. It's just that Droplet is good to have, and it's such a versatile card. And the sad thing is that you're gonna have people who, and I'm gonna say this right now. I'm not thinking of kids. There's no kid out there who's dropping $400 on
Oh
Droplet
no. Yeah.
unless Daddy is very liberal with
Yeah,
his
they'd have
credit
to be
card.
super rich. Yeah, there's no way. Yeah.
But
I don't see
it's
something like
like,
that happening.
and that's what I'm saying is that I don't feel pity for people who pay because people who are paying for this should know what they're getting themselves into. You're gonna pay $100+ for Droplet now. Droplet is gonna get the reprint, and you paid maybe $100 extra because I'm assuming $30, $40 at most, like at the very most, if it gets a reprint in the Megatins.
Mhm. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. What cards do you think are going to make their way to the Megatens?
Well, if we're gonna look at what we have right here, so Rise of the Duelist and Eternity Code are the big ones for me because with how the sets are lined up, we essentially have three sets that we know are going to get guaranteed in the Megatins as core sets,
Uh-huh.
especially if we follow last year's pattern.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get Ignition Assault, which is
Uh-huh.
the set that introduced the Ignisters, which is good. It's good because we're getting
Yeah.
the new stuff in Lightning Vortex, so
And I like the Ignisters deck.
or
That's a
Lightning
great
Overdrive.
budget deck. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's really good for a lot of players that want to play something competitive that's cheap. Shout outs to Fusion Yugioh that's in the channel. He loves those kind of budget decks as well. But continue. What else are we gonna probably see?
So we're gonna see a reprint of Ignister stuff. So my advice is, if you want to play Ignisters, Lightning Overdrive is coming out in, I'm guessing, May or June. Just wait till the Megatins to get your Islands if you don't care about rarity, because Island will probably be a very affordable reprint.
Uh-huh.
So that's it. That's Ignition Assault. I don't think Ignition Assault really has too much else I'm forgetting about. Let me double check that set real quick.
Lightning Storms and Ignition
Lightning
Assault.
Storm.
Yes. Do you
I
think we're
forgot
gonna
that.
see
Lightning
that get
Storm
a
sold that set.
reprint?
That's gonna have to get a reprint. Lightning Storm in this set is like what Phantasme, Warlord, or Extra were in Savage Strike. They were the only reason you really bought the set, unless you were really into Ignisters. So
Yeah.
Lightning Storm has to get a reprint in there. If it doesn't, I would expect it. Lightning Storm could even get a reprint in Ghost from the Past. It has happened before where cards like Phantasme didn't get reprinted in the Megatins, but we got their reprints in Dual Overload.
Right.
So we could see Lightning Storm reprinted as soon as next month, which I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They could totally get away with it. So that's Ignition Assault. We're gonna get a reprint of Lightning Storm, a few Ignister stuff. Rose is probably the only other notable card in that
For
set.
Sky Striker players.
Wonder,
Yep.
Plunder Patrols. Honestly, the Ultras could use a reprint just
I
so they're
agree
not.
with that. Yep.
Like everything else in Plunder Patrol is cheap aside from Red Beard and White Beard.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's a great point. Both of those cards currently sitting around $8 a piece. Oh, I forgot Ancient Warriors are in there too. Yeah, I totally forgot about that deck.
yeah,
Shout outs
Ancient
here.
Warriors are kind of already budget, but they
Oh,
can
they
see a
are,
reprint
but
there too.
see, and this is what's so strange is there is just such a huge amount of inflation with everything. So, for example, I made a budget ancient gear deck or ancient warrior deck, and it was very cheap. It was about $20, super good. And I'm looking at the cards in here, and they've already shot up in price. I mean,
Yep.
this is just nuts to look at when you're looking at this market that even so-called budget cards are now starting to go up so much in price. That to me is quite alarming because usually those budget cards
So
don't go very far.
So I'm gonna give one caveat here to or caveat to Ancient Warrior, and that's that I've seen some hype around this deck. I don't think it's gonna be top tier, but people are saying it's gonna see a lot more success now as a rogue deck because there's no more VFDs or Etopic Zexals stinking around where rogue decks again we talked about this. Those
Yeah,
two cards essentially gatekeep what was rogue and what wasn't, so I think Ancient Warriors are just seeing a little more hype from the rogue community. That's kind of where I see those coming in. Um,
but
Eternity Code. Eternity Code. If we're gonna move on to that,
right.
you can finish your
So,
Ancient Warrior thing.
well, no, no. So with Ancient Warriors, the new card that they got is very good. That
Oh
it's
yeah,
super easy to special summon because if your opponent's not playing Ancient Warriors, it's a free special and it's got a great quick effect. It pops a card. It's really good. But again, it's just weird to see what is typically budget going up. And again, that's just a little alarming to me. Do you think Secret Slayers is going to see a reprint? That set.
so I think Secret Slayers will potentially. Here's my issue with Secret Slayers getting a reprint position is that they've already reprinted Eldritch. I know that sounds like a stupid reason. It's just that if they had waited to reprint Eldritch in these megatins instead of maximum gold, I would have seen a better reason for it.
Uh huh.
But here's the thing: if Rika, if they put Secret Slayers in there, the Rika archetype is going to kind of be a downside. And Adamantipator's the only Adamantipator stuff that's really gonna burn your wallet now is Researcher. Like Cursed Eldland will burn your pocket, but what's stopping Konami from just reprinting Eldland and stuff? Maybe even in another golden set. You know,
Yeah,
it's
that's a good point. And I don't know. Again, shout outs to KC Games because he and I were talking about this the other day. He thinks that, and he was right when he told me pick up the researchers now. This is when they were 20. They're almost 40.
yeah.
I mean, they have literally almost doubled in price, which is just crazy to think about. Oh my goodness, look at this. So the Adamantipator card drag guy, this used to be under $1. And again, guys, if you've been watching this entire stream that Grunt and I are doing, you're noticing a trend that everything is almost 3 times what it was, not even 2 to 3 months ago. That
There's a lot
is
of stuff that's not
nuts.
just $1 anymore.
Yes, I mean everything is just shooting up in price when you look at where things were before this happened. I mean, I know Emancipator is about double, but even some cheap stuff here like Dragite has gone up in price, which is just really strange to me. It's just very odd. But
Yeah.
so you're thinking that they'll skip Secret Slayers just because we have Researcher and Cursed Eldlin that we'd be worried about.
So, and I'm gonna say this right now. I am 100% behind the idea that they shouldn't have to reprint Secret Slayer, but they probably will. I say that because we got what was it? We had a side set that was reprinted in the Megatins last year. I think it was it? Let me double check that real quick. I think it was the one with the evil eyes in it because it wasn't
Oh, uh huh. Yeah, yeah.
it's hard for me to say that. So I think what we're gonna see happen is they can either reprint. Let me double check. Okay, yeah. So I could see them reprinting it in there only because of the timing. Because yeah, witchcrafters. So from recent history, they seem to be reprinting the spring sets or the summer sets
Yes.
because we had Dark Saviors get a reprint a couple of years ago.
Yep, that's what Fusion YGO just brought up. Yep, keep
Yep.
going.
And then we had this set reprinted. I feel like if they wanted to skip Secret Slayers, here's a set that I feel like you haven't thought about but has seen a lot of motion recently. Spirit Warriors. I think Spirit Warriors would appreciate a reprint too because outside of Caspar and Starfire, who have had reprints, a lot of the samurai stuff, weather painters are going up a little bit. I guess my point is that some sites have seen it more, but Konami seems to care more about recency. And even though Research is the only one that's really, in my opinion, because Eldland's only up because Eldritch isn't $100 anymore. Let's be
Yeah,
real here.
yeah.
And it's stupid that a super rare is worth that much.
Wow. I'm just even so you said Spirit Warriors. Just looking here, Kizaru
Is
is
uh,
$24.
Yeah, and I've
Um
got some of him still. It's funny
man,
that Sams are worth money. Or Snow.
it,
Snow recently had a spike that someone pointed out. I think M40
jeez,
pointed this
look
out.
at this with legendary Six Samurai Shien, $5. I mean, these are typically cards that you were getting last year at this time for $1. I mean, the weather painter stuff is going up big time. I mean, this is really something to look at here.
And here's the sad thing. As a guy who has dabbled with weather painters and has a few decks of weather painters, I couldn't tell you why Snow is going up because Snow has always been the most expensive card in the deck. She's a 3 of staple. You need her to help with your searching and to get things going. So the issue I have with this is that when I bought my set of Snow, I think she was at most 10, 15 a piece, like, because weather painters weren't
Jeez.
what people were really focusing on here. It
Yeah.
was all about the muskets. And now she's like double that price, and I haven't seen anyone playing Snow in tournaments. So I couldn't tell you why she's going up. If somebody found a tech with her, I'm all for it. I love weather painters. But
Yeah, absolutely.
there are some cards that just go for no reason. Kizaru's been always up here. He's just been dying for a reprint.
Uh-huh.
Hatsume has crept up.
Oh yeah,
Even
because that card used to be $2. I have one, and I got
mhm.
it when it was just a couple bucks, and now look at it, it's 4 times as much. I mean that
she's
is just nuts.
she essentially traded places with Fuma because Fuma, if you
Oh
remember,
yes,
was
yeah, that
pretty
card was
pricey for a
yes, it
while.
was.
And then he got a reprint this year in Duov, and now it's
Yes, and
like,
then he
who's
went down in
Fuma?
price. Yeah, really good point.
So I don't know. I guess my point is that Konami has a wide pool of stuff to pull from, but they're probably still going to go back to Secret Slayers anyway,
Yeah.
even if because again, there's just so much stuff. You're like, you mentioned it yourself. Dragite's gone up. Like Eldritch is easily the most expensive deck in here now.
Yeah, oh absolutely. Yep.
Adamantipator used to be a close second, but it can't even compete now.
Oh no,
And
no, it cannot. So then you said, okay, so Ignition Assault, Secret Slayers, we have Eternity Code, and we kind of went through that just a little bit already, but is this definitely going to be seeing cards? And if so, which ones do you
oh,
think are coming?
oh, Eternity Code is 100% going to see a reprint in the Megatins because if Konami has done anything right, um, and they've kind of shifted their time frames because if you remember going back to I think it was the last time they did this was 2018 because I think Ignition no set no it was I'm trying to think because Ignition Assault came out in 2020 and it skipped to 2020. I think the last time we had this happen was in the 2018 tins because the 2019 tins they skipped on a Savage Strike and that was a big upset for people because people didn't. That's why some people didn't pick up
Oh
Extrad
yeah,
was
people were
because
livid because that had Borreload Savage in there. Yes, people were nuts. The super
people
got all the way
were
up to $100.
well because people thought that. and I think this was kind of the preconceived notion. Because let me think back. I'm trying to think back to
But that did
because
get
what
a
was
reprint in the tins, though, if I remember right, because that was one
in
of the
the
big chase cards that people were going for was Savage. Yeah,
no no
yeah,
no
because
no.
Savage
So
used to be huge. So Savage Strike did get that in the 2020 tins.
in the 2020 tins, I guess my point though is if you look back at the 2018 tins, so
Uh huh.
this goes back a couple of years, but the 2020 or 2018 tins, I'm trying to remember what sets came out when because what was that spring set that year? Was that the one with Xcode Talker, the green one? I'm trying to remember. But
Oh gosh,
long
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It
I'm
was
trying to
the
remember
set
what it
that
is though.
it was a trash set. But
Yeah.
long story short, I'm sorry, I'm still trying to wrap my head. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that the major upset in the 2019 tins, and I'm sure that Fusion Yu-Gi-Oh could elaborate on this, is that it was the first set to kind of throw off the balance because again, we usually did not see reprints of side set stuff. That's why Spirit Warriors stuff is just now getting reprints like Fuma or
Yeah.
Caspar,
Yeah.
and now that we're having them in Megatins, I feel like outside of what they're reprinting for Spirit Warriors still, we're gonna see less stuff reprinted in bigger sets like Ghost from the Past, and we're seeing more either reprinted like Eldritch was or reprinted in the tin. So again,
Yeah.
if you really want Animancipator Researcher, you're probably gonna have to wait until the Megatins. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's again all about recency. I guess my point is that because Ignition Assault was skipped again, kind of like Savage Strike,
Uh
it's
huh.
pretty much guaranteed to be in the next 10 unless they really want to skip it for some reason because they could.
Right.
And Eternity Code is just another Dark Neostorm. There's no reason they wouldn't reprint such a popular booming set. It's gonna
Mm-hmm.
probably be the one of the selling points. I think these Megatins, if they have what I think they do, they're gonna be the best ones in the last couple of years
Oh
because
wow, because I thought 2019's Megatins were excellent.
so 2019 had some good stuff, especially with the promos. I can't knock that
Yes.
enough. If 2020 tins had promos, I would be more willing to
Yes.
throw them a bone.
Yeah, because the
But uh,
2010 or 2019 Megatins were awesome. You got Dark Ruler No More. You had Called by the Grave when it was expensive. I mean,
Nibiru
it
when it was
had
expensive.
really good. Oh my gosh, though. Okay, let's look at this stuff in 2019 now. So you mention it.
Uh
This is what
huh.
I'm talking about with the prices, guys. This is insane. So
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
looking at this and some of the stuff here. So Cyber Dragon Hertz, which it just had a reprinting, is now suddenly at almost $8.
Mhm.
Dragon Thunderbird is all the way to $11. Danger Bigfoot is up to 13. Tsuchinoko is up to 13. I mean, this is nuts looking at some of these.
Dangers are still being splashed in a lot of stuff, and because none of the dangers have been reprinted since. No, you know what? That's a lie. Because they reprinted Ogo Pogo in 2020, because it was the one danger we got in Savage Strike. But I digress. Dangers are still seeing some splashability here and there. I mean, heck, the Fable deck I was playing yesterday as an exhibition ran Tsuchinoko, Nessie, and Jackalope. The point is that dangers are still good. The nightmares are still keeping value even with their reprint.
Right, right. And that was a
And
great
Thun-
reprint in Genesis Impact. I thought Genesis Impact actually had some solid reprints. But the
well,
set
here is
itself was still very underwhelming.
so my and I'm gonna kind of digress here to some buying advice. If you guys have a little pocket money and you're interested in something that might potentially spike up in value if it ever comes off, I would consider picking up Thunder Dragon stuff now because there
Oh
have
yeah,
been people,
yeah.
and I know the list just came out. We're not going to get another list until 3, 4 more months. But hear me out here. If Colossus ever gets peeled off to one or something, you can bet he's gonna
He's gonna
have at
spike.
least a brief
Yeah,
period where he spikes
yeah,
because he's only
absolutely.
had two printings
Yep.
and
And it's dirt
it's
cheap right
crazy.
now. We just saw it. It's $2. I mean,
It's two
that's
bucks. Yeah.
super affordable.
Like all the Thunder Dragon stuff is mostly affordable, and I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that 2019, outside of the dangers, was definitely carried by its world premiere cards. We can't really say anything bad about Nibiru or Dark Ruler,
Uh-huh.
or the fact that Boral Sword had a very good reprint here, especially after how he was just reprinted that year in Battles of Legend as a short print and made
Yeah.
people salty. It's so 2019, in my opinion, is going to age better than 2020, depending on when they reprint stuff. I guess what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get at though is that like the dangers didn't make the sets what they were. If you're getting what I'm
Yeah, oh yeah.
going at,
That makes sense to
like
me. Yes.
like Code of the Duelist. I think that was when we got. Let me double check that real quick. When was Danger Bigfoot release? I'm probably wrong. I'm probably off by a set. Cybernetic Horizon, yeah, because Code of the Duelist was Firewall's release. Like Cybernetic Horizon was kind of a cruddy set. We got Boral Sword, we got Bigfoot, Nessie, and then everything else was just kind of dirt cheap. Like he didn't really care about picking up anything outside of the dangers or Boral Sword.
Oh
It
wow.
was kind of a Savage Strike thing.
Now this is
And
interesting you bring that up. So number 38, Hope,
oh, yep, I've
Harbinger
seen him
Dragon.
too
Yeah, that has spiked up. My gosh,
because he's only got two
Cyber
printings.
Rev System's gone up. Theirs hurts again at $10. This
So,
is
and that's why
crazy.
Cyber Dragon players have a lot of options to glitz out their deck, and I can attest to this because I have max rarity outside of the ultimate rare Cyber Dragons because I like having my limbs attached.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, no, Cyber Dragons are just because they have a ton of rarity options, so it makes sense why the Megatin versions and the old Ultras have value. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that 2019 Megatins had great cards reprinted, but 2021, if they follow the formula, is going to have amazing set reprints. And I say this
Yeah.
because the last set that we're totally going to see come in here is let me double check this set real quick. I think that the biggest thing we're going to have ended up here is that we're going to see Dogmatica reprints from Rise of the Duelist, and
Uh-huh.
because again, if memory serves me right, Rise of the Duelist came out in a Cybernetic Horizon slot in early August, late September, that type of range. And usually those sets, they come out right before the Megatins come out that year, which these did.
Yeah.
And the way I see it, those sets are almost always guaranteed to have great stuff, but they also have the longest clocks usually next to the summer sets, which is
Yeah.
Neostorm and Eternia.
Well, and it needs to have stuff reprinted in here. There's a lot of good stuff in this set, like you already alluded to. And if you even want to get a case, the low is $3,000 on here right now. That is just
Yeah,
nuts.
it used
But
to be much more affordable to do that.
yes, and that's what's so scary to me with this market. And I guess what my big message to everyone is caution. I think that Grunt hit it perfectly earlier. If you know there's a reprint on the horizon, we don't have big events that we're going to, don't use the money now. I mean, wait until you've got a few months more in here and you know these reprints are coming and spend it on the reprints when the market is going to be completely overwhelmed because there will be so many people trying to turn them. That just makes more sense to me. Um, I really liked what you touched upon earlier, Grunt, when you said these cards that are banned, like Colossus, pick it up now while it's cheap. I have a buddy that does that. Shout outs to Milo if you're listening. But he's a good friend of mine. He lives in Northwest Indiana, up in the Maryville area. And he does this all the time. He looks for when banned cards get as low as possible, picks them up just in case they ever come off the ban list. I did something like that with like a Harpy's feather duster, and boy, did that shoot up overnight when it came off the ban list. I mean, overnight. So I think that's really good advice. If you were going to pick up other cards other than Colossus, what would be a ban card you'd pick up just in case it maybe comes off the list?
Well, I can tell you what I wouldn't pick up because I've been watching this card like a hawk, waiting for it to go down, and it
Uh
refuses to die, and that is
huh.
Masterpiece.
Yeah. Oh,
Masterpiece
that's funny you say
refuses to
that. I've
lose his
had my
value.
eye on that too. That's hilarious.
I've been watching him because I played True Draco, and everyone has said every year they can bring Masterpiece back. They can bring
Uh
Masterpiece
huh.
back, and I know that there's a divide here. I'm just saying that with some of the stuff they have allowed in the past, I
Oh
can see
my
them bringing
gosh.
it back to one.
It's even more money than it was when I last
Yeah,
checked. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. The last time I
Um,
checked, I looked at it, it was 10 something. It is $23. No, $24. Oh my
s-
gosh.
so here's what I would consider. So there are a few cards I would bring up. I think the biggest one I want to point out for any of my Pendulum players out there, it's not Electromite. I don't think Electromite's going to be coming back anytime soon because Konami's been very good in my opinion in giving archetypes Electromite like tools, and we'll discuss this in a future stream if I'm a part of it, and that's news you missed because we still haven't discussed the Do Re Mi chord spell they revealed when we were
Uh-huh.
done discussing
Uh-huh.
them a while ago, and
Yeah.
I was telling you that spell literally does anything
Everything.
Electromite would do
Yes.
for him.
Yes. Yeah.
But for Pendulum players, I would say Astrograph Sorcerer is a good thing to consider. It
Okay,
has only
I
one
talked
printing.
about this in the last stream as well.
Yeah, it's a core.
I think this card is very has a very high potential of possibly coming off. It is cheap, right? Oh, it has gone up. It was actually cheaper than this. Even still, a buck is definitely budget when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, especially for a card like this that has so many great effects. Um, yeah, that would be a great pickup because if it does come off, I imagine it jump into five almost instantly, maybe even more. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one. What else
Uh,
do you think?
so as much as I hate them, any of my Salad players out there who don't have it yet, Mirage Stalio still has only one printing, and if he ever comes back, I don't think he'll be a game breaker, but he probably won't get cheaper.
Uh huh.
Let's see here. I don't think he's gonna come back, but MX Saber Invoker could potentially. I know that decks don't need any more consistently and any more consistency, and Invoker adds that. But Invoker's also a relatively cheap card. One of the secret rare versions of him is
Did
like
you say
20 cents.
Invoker?
MX Saber Invoker.
Oh,
He
there
was
he is.
that
Okay,
one.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. He's the Xyz that you would just bring a warrior out.
Oh
People would
yes,
use him in
yeah,
a
yeah.
Clown Blade.
Yeah, and the card's really cheap if you do the Battles of Legend, Light's Revenge. Yeah. Now let's
Hmm.
talk about that a little bit. This is not a card that we talked about coming off our ban list discussion. Do you think it's going to stay banned for a long time?
So I think Invoker will be banned for a while. I only bring him up now because you can get a good rarity version of him, and you're not really risking much here. I don't think he's
Yeah,
going to come back for a while,
right.
and but I'm just saying that we know how Konami is with the ban list. If they really want to push an agenda with a certain beast deck or something, they could theoretically bring him back. I'm not trying to be omniscient here. I don't think he has a good chance of coming back. I'm just saying that there is a chance, and he's more of an extender. I could see him being
Yeah,
broken in certain
yeah.
strats. I just don't. I don't know.
It's a great
It's
card. It
yeah.
was around when Zodiac was first popular, and then the deck got hit. And this was one of the ways to hit the consistency. So yeah, that boy, this would have been a great one to just maybe throw into the meta. But I like what you're saying here. It is cheap, and if it's cheap, get your play set now. I agree, absolutely.
Yeah. Other stuff I'd consider. Honestly, there's not a lot of stuff I could see them peeling off anymore because the game just keeps getting to the point where it's like they're never gonna bring Gofu back. They're never going to bring back Cyberjar. Maybe okay, maybe because of how slow it is, they could bring back Cyberjar. I'm not saying they should, but who knows? I'm not Konami.
Yeah,
They're not gonna bring
yeah.
back Dandelion without Narada.
No, because
Eclipse
tokens are
Wyvern.
too
Eclipse
powerful.
Wyvern can't come back
Yeah.
while Dragon Link is alive. I think that
Oh my gosh,
Fairy Tale Snow. Let's see what
Cyberjar.
peel off.
This is insane. Okay,
Cyberjar is
so
not coming back.
yeah, but look at the pricing. Oh, okay, that's better when I get down to the rares. For a minute I was like, this is really expensive. But it's interesting you bring up a card like Cyberjar. I've seen a lot of people really enjoying older formats.
Oh, for
Uh,
Goat, it's very fun to play with Fiber and Cyber. I'm just saying that if
yeah,
we're talking about actual games, I don't see it coming back to the public anytime soon because it's just something that kind of is a reset button. Fiber Jar especially. Eclipse Wyvern, I would almost say get Eclipse Wyvern, but the problem is that with Dragon Link being
yeah,
still a solid deck,
yeah,
by the
it's too
time they bring
good.
back Eclipse Wyvern, they're gonna kill that deck. I think I don't like this card. I'm gonna say this now, but
I
I
like that.
think
I don't
that with
like it, and I'm gonna tell you.
but now that links are more and more still being in use and stuff, I could see them peeling off Fairy Tale Snow in the next year or two.
Oh, that is an interesting one.
Because, and I understand why some people don't like snow. I don't like snow much. I guess I'm just trying to get at is that it has seen mostly use in decks that like to mill a lot, especially
Yeah,
Lightsworn. There were Lightsworn variants that were using this in grass, which grass don't pick up grass. I don't think grass is ever coming back unless they
yeah,
make a new version.
yeah, with
But
an errata.
snow,
Yeah.
snow is literally like a different form of Book of Moon that summons
Oh,
itself.
it's great.
So it's
Yeah, the
got
card's
like
super good.
it's got utility, but we have Book of Moon at 3.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't know. I could see them bringing Snow back
yeah.
to 1 or 2. It's not busted like Blow Up Bulb or
Yes.
and any of the tuners here. If they ban Halqifibrax, then yes, I could see Bulb and Jet Synchron and all of them coming back to the game. It's just a matter of if and when they ban Crystron Link. Otherwise, I don't know. I would say Max C, but
Oh,
Max
that's
C's kind of a meme at
expensive.
this point,
Yeah, so
and even then he's
Maxi,
expensive.
that is insane. And what's interesting about Maxi is if you go to the structure deck machine reactor, this is
Hmm.
insane the cost of this structure deck right now. So first of
Yeah,
all, notice that
it's
this
all
is
because of Max C and the
1120.
continuous spell.
Yeah, this is nuts though. I think this is around $70. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm pretty sure this structure deck is insane. Yeah, look at that. So the lowest price is $75. That's insane.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
even believe that that's even the price of a structure deck. $75.
it's hilarious because I traded for an ancient gear core like when the deck was relatively newish,
Uh huh.
and I forget what I traded to the guy, but I think I traded him like higher rarity stuff that ended up getting a reprint that like I think it was a Danger Bigfoot
Uh huh.
and maybe a Secret Invoked Mechaba.
Uh huh.
And I think I got the last laugh because the value on the ancient gear stuff is kind of funny for a deck that hasn't really seen much success
I
recently.
know. I don't understand why this deck is so expensive right now. I mean,
Well,
$75. I mean, I know it's got the Maxi. I know it's got the Ancient Gear Fortress that's a ridiculous $12 common, and it's not even
yeah,
that good. Okay, so now I'll explain why I feel that way here because I know there's
feel
going to be
free.
people in the stream that blow me up over that. But if you look at the card here, during the turn they were normal or specialed, your opponent cannot target ancient gear monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So that's just the turn they're summoned. So then you have to deal with your opponent's turn. I mean, unless you're doing special summoning on their turn, this card is not as helpful then. And so it's just
Well,
ah.
well, as a guy who's played with ancient gears, we all know that they only care about one thing, and that's blowing it up because of the last
Yeah.
effect. We all know that's why people play Fortress, and that's because It's another extender that lets you summon from the deck from the hand or grave. So that's literally what it comes down to with Fortress. And again, I don't think it deserves this price tag. But
No,
again, it's
not at
oh
all.
no reprints. Oh no, the
It,
deck hasn't been
it's
reprinted
almost like
much.
a brick for me when I play it. Honestly, I think there are better budget options out there for players. Again, shout out here to Fusion YGO. Check out his top 10 budget card list. There are just better replacements, I feel, to handle your opponent's board or to set up some kind of back row that helps you here more. So it's just interesting. But again, I think Fusion YGO is right with what he said in the chat. Pick up the Max C now while it's 10, because if it ever does come off, this price jumps to 40. I bet. I would not be surprised if this skyrocketed completely out of control if that happened.
Yeah, I mean, and here's what I have to say. If you don't like the idea of a common one, I mean, let's be frank here. The gold really doesn't cost that much more. I think gold looks good on Maxi.
Oh, I do
I mean,
too.
I know
Yeah, I
there's,
thought the gold
I
looked
know,
good too.
I understand it. There are people out there who are like, but the old gold rares look like garbage, and I'm like, yeah, but you're telling that to somebody who doesn't really mind platinum rares either. So
But the gold is it is just a tad bit more expensive, not by much. Yeah, good point. Man, this card, look at that. It was a collector's tin in 2012. Look at that. 6 printings and it's still so high. Man.
well, the funny thing is, the funny thing is that if you look at that specific tin, you can pretty much guess which one has the max C based on the value.
Uh-huh.
Because I think I'm trying to remember which set it was. Was it the Sun Dragon that had max C? No. I think it was actually the Grandmaster Hanzo that had max C. Both of them came with Rescue Rabbit, and that was a big
Oh,
selling
yeah,
point
that's a
for
big
those
card.
tins.
Yeah. Super big. But yeah, so very, very good options there, Grunt. I would agree. There's some good cards to pick up now while they're cheap in case they ever do get unbanned. But I know, yeah, I agree with you, Fusion YGO. The supers will probably go to 75, no doubt about it. So, guys, again, that is the biggest thing that we just want to make sure you're aware of when it comes to this stream is that the market is really unusually high across the board right now. And I would proceed with caution when you're buying stuff because you really don't want to end up getting the short end of the stick. Because if you're going to use that money you're getting, use it in the best possible way. I would invest in a way to where you get the most bang for your buck, like maybe playing some more core sets, mixing up the variety of cards that you can play. All of that, I think, would be the better way to go. So, Grunt, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you being here. I really enjoyed the discussion, man. Thank you.
No problem. Again, my last piece of advice to everyone out there is think to yourself if you really need this now. Because I'm saying this as kind of a warning. It's almost like a miniature doomsday clock with these sets. Because if you picked up Droplet when Rise of the Duelist came out, like in September, August, then sure, you would have had a good year with it before it gets the reprint of the Megatins. Now the clock is ticking, and you've essentially burned half of that time, and it's only gone up. So, do you really
Yeah.
want to spend more money now for less time with it?
Yeah, completely agree. So, guys, that's going to do it for our Money Watch. We really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching this Money Market Watch Yu-Gi-Oh video. We hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know what you think down in the comments below. Also, if you did enjoy the video, please hit that like button. If you'd ever like to catch the discussions live, consider following our Twitch community. We'd love to have you guys be a part of it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
But I wait for your next challenge. I know that you'll be back.